ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome all of you all for the third week in which we are continuing our discussion of the 15th chapter, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. That is the name of this chapter, Purushottam Yoga, on this auspicious month of Purushottam Mass. So today, like we did the last 2 weeks, we will recite the entire 15th chapter first before we begin today's discussion. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamoolam Adashakam Ashwattham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Sa Vedavid Adashchordhvam Prasitasya Tasya Shaka Guna Pravrda Vishaya Pravala Adashtamulani Anusantatani Karmanubandhini Manushaloke न रूपमस्येह ततोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठिता अश्वत्थमेनुर् सुविरुद्धमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा ततः पदं यत् परिग्रामितव्यं यस्मिन् गता न निवृत्तानि भूय तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्ति प्रसृष्टा पुराणी निर्माण मोह जित संग दोष अध्यात्म नित्या विनिवृत्त कामा द्वंद्वेर विमुक्ता सुख दुख संगे गच्छन्ति अमूढ़ा पदम अव्ययम तत् न तद्भास्यते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावका यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूत सनातना मनसस्तानि इन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यद् अवाप्नोति यच्चापि उत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयातिर्वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयत् श्रोतं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणम् एव च अधिष्ठाया मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषा यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्ति आत्मनि अवस्थितं यतन्तो अपि अकृत्मानो नैनं पश्यन्ति अचेतस यद् आदित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भास्यते किलं यच्चन्द्रांसि यच्चाग्नो तत्तेजो विधिमामकम् गामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयामि अहमोजसा उष्णांसि चौषधी सर्व सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकम् अहं वैवाश्वनो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रिता प्राणापान समायुक्ता पचामि अन्नं चतुर्विधम् सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् अपोहनं च वेदेश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृत् वेदविदेव चाहम् द्वामिमो पुरुषो लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षर सर्वाणि भूतानि कुतस्थो अक्षर उच्यते उत्तम पुरुषस्त्वन्य परमात्मेति उदारत यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य बिभर्ति अव्यय ईश्वर यस्माच्चरम् अतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तम अतोऽस्मि लोकवेदे च प्रतीत पुरुषोत्तम यो मामेव असमूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद् भजति मां सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदं मुक्तं मया नघ एतद् बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमां स्यात् कृतकृतश्च भारत. So last week we had discussed till verse number 10. So today we'll be starting from verse number 11 onwards, 11 to 15. So we'll do a quick recap of what we have done till now in the 15th chapter. So in this 15th chapter, Krishna speaks about this acronym for this 15th chapter is called HOME, H-O-M-E. So the first 6 verses of this 15th chapter, Krishna encourages all of us to move from this material world, which is like a hotel, to our actual home. That is Krishna's recommendation in the first 6 verses. That all of us, we are not supposed to be meant to be in this world, but we are actually supposed to be meant to be with Krishna in the spiritual world. So someone can see this world either as a hotel, or someone can imagine this world to be a home. But this world is not a home, it is just a temporary place. Just like we have been discussing, even if you go to the best of the restaurants, you will not be happy there after a considerate period, because we all long to go back to our home. So that's why Krishna is recommending here that we give up this material world, our attachments to this material world, and look for pleasure in our original home. So in the first verse of the 15th chapter, Krishna explains an upside down banyan tree. Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakam, an upside down banyan tree. So where do you see an upside down banyan tree? On the bank of a lake, a body of water. That means the reflection of a tree is seen in the water as upside down. So the spiritual world, the home, is actually the original tree. And this material world, which is like a hotel, is the reflection of that tree. And we are all trying to find happiness in this reflection. And we are trying to move around in this reflection, sometimes higher planets, sometimes the lower planets, sometimes middle planets, different bodies, sometimes the body of a king, sometimes the body of an animal. We're trying different bodies, different permutations and combinations to try to be happy in this material world. But we cannot be happy in this material world, just like someone can't find the real fruit in the reflection of the tree, in the reflection of the fruit in the water. If someone wants to find the fruit, the reflection may seem like a fruit, but it will not satisfy you. It is illusory. So if you want the real fruit of enjoyment, we need to turn upwards to the spiritual world. So that's why Krishna recommends that with asanga shastrena dridena chittva, with great determination and detachment, we should cut this illusory tree of material existence. And why is Krishna using this word Ashwatha Vriksha, banyan tree? Because a banyan tree is very complicated tree. So Krishna is recommending us that we should cut this tree with the weapon of detachment. And once we do that, we will all make this journey to the spiritual world. From this material world, we will all move to the spiritual world. So that's Krishna's recommendation in the 15th chapter. So this is the journey that we have to make from this world, which is like a hotel, to our original home. And how do we do that? By regularly reading the wisdom of the Gita. By connecting to the wisdom of the Gita, we will actually make this journey. So this is Krishna's motivation for all of us, that please take the steps and come ahead to the spiritual world. So someone might say, this is what Krishna discussed in the first 6 verses, hotel or home. So the next section, which is verse number 7 to 11, which we saw a part of it last week, is the second acronym of this acronym HOME, HOME, which is verse number 7 to 11. So this stands for the O in the word home. And what does it refer to? On and on, over and over again. So someone might say, what if I don't take this journey? What if I don't take the steps to the spiritual world? What is the problem in being in this world? Yes, you can be in this world, but then you will have to keep taking birth again and again. Punarapi jadanam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janare jatare shayanam. So we'll have to keep going over this process again and again. Just like you have a, when you go to a circus or when you go to a mela, you have this Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel. So you sit on that cart of that Ferris wheel, and this wheel keeps moving. Sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes middle, sometimes up, sometimes down. So this process keeps going on and on. So just like we saw that banyan tree, in that banyan tree, there is this upper planets, the middle planets, the lower planets. So in this world, we keep moving up and down this ladder, thinking that if we change the place, we will be happy. So people in India feel that if I go to America, I'll be happy. People in America feel that if I go to the heavens, if I go to the moon, I will be happy. Elon Musk is doing all his spaceships to send people on the moon. Why? Because people in America are feeling that America is not happy. Probably if you go to the moon, you'll be happy. But wherever you go in this material world, you will not be happy. Why? Krishna explains in this, in text 7, Krishna says, this is a very beautiful verse which we discussed last time. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastani indriyani prakriti stani karishati. So in this world, we are all come in this world to enjoy, but then we don't enjoy in this world. What are we undergoing? We are undergoing hard struggle for existence. We are struggling very hard with our mind and senses. And in this way, we keep transmigrating from one body to another. Sometimes higher, sometimes lower, sometimes middle in this illusory tree of this material world. So this is called the samsara chakra, the wheel of birth and death. In this wheel, we keep transmigrating again and again. So just like we were discussing the story of this person called Kailash, whom Narad Muni is coming to preach and telling Kailash that take up to spiritual life. You have got this rare human form of life. Please take up to the process of bhakti. But Kailash postpones it, saying that, no, I'll take it up later. Narad Muni comes again and he sees that Kailash has got a body of a dog now. Narad Muni tells him, now at least you take up. Kailash is not ready. Says, I'll take it up again. The next time Narad Muni comes, he's in the body of a snake. So in this way, we keep thinking that I have great responsibilities in this world. I have to stay in this world. I will be happy in this world. But we don't experience happiness here. We keep struggling, and we keep just transmigrating from one body to another, sometimes high, sometimes low, sometimes in the middle. But we don't experience happiness. So who can understand all this? Krishna says in verse number 10, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha. Only those whose eyes are trained. Trained by what? Trained by knowledge. Jnana Chakshu. One whose eyes are trained by knowledge. Only such a person can see reality. So what we are doing in the Gita classes, or when we read the Gita, our eyes get trained. We get a clear vision. And now with the vision of the scriptures, Shastra Chakshu or Jnana Chakshu, we can see the reality of this world. We can see this world as it is. We see that this world is really not such a great place to enjoy. It is actually a place where there is suffering all around. So in this way, Krishna is saying that we should all develop this eyes vision of intelligence so that we can actually see the reality. So this is where we had stopped last week. So there was one verse left in this section, text 11. We will do that today. So today we will do from verse number 11 till verse number 15. So text 11, Krishna says, Yatanto yoginaschainam pashyanti atmani avasthitam yatanto api akritmano nainam pashyati achetasa. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. So who can see the reality of this world? Who can actually understand that this world is a place of suffering where there is repeated birth and death? And who can understand that, yes, my aim in life is to actually serve Krishna and attain the spiritual world? Who can see it? Only one who's endeavoring. Yatanto means endeavoring. Endeavor is needed. But endeavor for what? Endeavor for self-realization. So, spiritual life is not meant for lazy people. Spiritual life, there is a lot of endeavor required. But this endeavor is for a right direction. What is the point in endeavoring in the wrong direction? If you're endeavoring for sense gratification for the temporary things in this world, it's actually foolishness. One time, there was a sadhu. He came to this king and told this king that take up spiritual life. The king told him, come on, I'm just enjoying. I mean, I'm a king. I have so much to enjoy. Why do I have to take up spiritual life? Not at all bothered. So the sadhu told him, don't worry, at least do me a favor. Find the greatest fool in your kingdom and appoint him. You pay him salary every month, and his duty is give him a stick in his hand, which will show the world that this fellow is a fool. And the only duty he has to is to keep wandering around the kingdom. And every month you give him salary. So the king said, to take up spiritual life is very difficult, but there's no harm in appointing this fellow. So the king found a fool, who was like number one fool, and he called him Mahamurk, a great fool, and gave him a duty, stick in his hand, and told him just wander around the kingdom, I will pay you salary. So years went by like this, and one day the king was on his deathbed. So, and the king was thinking that anyway I'm going to die now, so let me satisfy all my people who have worked with me so loyally. So he started to give money to everyone and thank everyone. So the king remembered that, oh, I have one more person in my payroll. This is that fool. So he said, he called that fool and told him, see, you have sufficiently served me. You have carried on the stick of this fool. So now you can retire. I will give you pension. Don't worry. But what you do is, you find a fool who is greater than you and give that stick in his hand. So this fool gave that stick in the hand of the king and told him, you are the biggest fool. Why? Because you have worked your entire life to earn money, to amass wealth, to gain kingdom, to do so many things. But after death, you are not able to carry anything with you. So who is a bigger fool than you? So in this way, people in this world work very hard, but try they as much as they can, they really don't experience happiness. So one has to endeavor. Hard work is required, but for what? For spiritual life. Yatanto yoginas chainam. On the path of yoga, self-realization, one should endeavor. And one who endeavors in the path of self-realization can actually see things as they are. So he gets trained, his mind gets trained, and he can actually appreciate the realities of this world. So that's why Krishna is saying that we all need to train our mind to actually see the reality. Otherwise, we may think that, what I see is the reality. One time, there was a frog, who was staying in a small well. And this frog was so proud, it thought that he knew everything. Because he thought he knew this well very well. He thought he knows everything. So there was one more friend of this frog, and he had seen an ocean. So this friend came and told this frog that I have seen a body of water which is bigger than this well. So this frog, which was accustomed to being in the well, it had done PhD on that well, Dr. Frog, was saying, how can there be anything bigger than this well? because it was thinking that this well is everything. There can't be anything bigger than this well. And it's not ready to believe that there is an ocean that's much bigger than this well. So this frog was asking, this Dr. Frog is asking the other frog who had seen the ocean, is the ocean 2 times the size of the well? Is it 3 times the size of the well? Is it 10 times the size of the well? This frog will never be able to understand that the ocean and the well is uncomparable. Similarly, we may be very proud of our knowledge, all our academic knowledge, but then we need to understand that topics about spiritual life, understanding Atma, understanding Paramatma, understanding the Supreme Lord is not possible through our mundane intelligence. It is possible only when we humbly submit ourselves to this process of training. When we train our mind and our intelligence through the wisdom of the Gita, then we can actually see the reality of this world for it is. We can actually see that this world is a place of miseries, and we can actually be inspired to take up a path that takes us beyond this world to the spiritual world. So that's the second section, verse number 7 to 11, on and on, over and over again. So in the second section, in the first section, verse 1 to 6, Krishna is speaking about the material world, which is like that hotel, and Krishna is speaking about the spiritual world and how we all need to make this journey from the material world to the spiritual world. So, and in the next section, 7 to 11, Krishna is saying that if one doesn't take up to spiritual life, if one says that I don't want to go to the spiritual world, then such a person will have to keep taking birth again and again. Now, for all of us to make this journey to the spiritual world, for all of us to start doing bhakti to Krishna, we all need to get some inspiration. Right? For us to surrender to someone, we need to love that person, isn't it? Just like a boy and a girl, when they get married, when a husband and wife, they come together. So both are ready to make a lot of sacrifices for each other. Why? Because there is love in that relationship. When there is love, you're ready to do any sacrifice for that person. So similarly, for all of us to start doing bhakti to Krishna, we need to love him. And in order to love him, we need to understand what Krishna is doing for us. Why should we love Krishna? And that is where we come to the next and a very beautiful section, verse 12 to 15. So in this section, Krishna is telling all of us how he is not only the maintainer of our body, mind and soul. So Krishna is ultimately, even though we are in this material world, even though we have left Krishna in the spiritual world and we are in the material world, still Krishna is always taking care of us. Krishna's protection and maintenance and his love for us is always there. Just like a child may tell the father that I am going away from home. The child may go away from home, but the father is following the child without the child noticing and constantly there with the child, so that anytime the child makes a mistake, the father is there to help the child. So even though we have left Krishna and come to this world, Krishna is always there, constantly accompanying us. So we will read text 12. Yad aditya gatam tejo jagat bhasyate kilam yad chandramsi yad chagno tat tejo vidimamakam. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this old world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. So Krishna is saying, you need inspiration to do bhakti to me. Just look around in this world, you will get so much inspiration. You will find my hand everywhere. The hand of God, the mercy of God, the love that God has for all of us is there everywhere. Just look at the sun. What is the sun? That splendor of the sun, Krishna says, comes from me. Yad aditya gatam tejo. That is my splendor. So the sun is having great power, but from where that sun is getting power? That is Krishna's power. And because of the sun, there is vegetables, the vegetables grow, there is light, the body is being maintained. There is so much energy that the sun gives us. It is all by the mercy of Krishna. So Krishna is inspiring all of us that look around, look at the sun. The sun is my mercy. So just by looking at the sun, you will get inspiration to develop a relationship with me. And not only the sun, the moon also. The splendor of the moon, Krishna says, also comes from me. And moon is also something that's very important. So it is explained that the vegetables and fruits, the taste that they get is due to the moonshine. Because of the moonshine, there is taste. Each vegetable tastes so sweet and so different. Each fruit has a different taste. Who is giving that taste? It's all due to the mercy of Krishna. So if you look around in this world, there is so much to thank Krishna for. There is so much to be grateful for. When is the last time when we actually we go in front of God to ask something from God? When have we gone in front of God just to thank Him for what He has given us? So Krishna is saying here, He maintains our body by the sun, by the moon, and by the fire. Without fire, how will we cook vegetables? So for vegetables to be grown, there has to be sunlight. For the vegetable to get nourishment, taste, there has to be moonlight. And for that vegetable to be cooked, there has to be fire. And that fire also, Krishna says, is my energy. So ultimately, even to maintain this body of ours, even to enjoy in this world, without the mercy of Krishna, we can't enjoy. Krishna is very merciful to us, even though we want to enjoy separately from Him. Krishna is helping us. So this is Krishna's mercy and Krishna's love for all of us, that at every step in our life, Krishna is practically there, guiding us, helping us. One time, Isaac Newton, he made this model of a universe, a rotating model with a handle. You rotate this handle and the planets would revolve around the sun. So one friend of Isaac Newton, who was an atheist, asked Isaac Newton, who made this? So Isaac Newton told him that it just came by chance. Just like that, it came up. So all these metals fell from the cupboard. And when I came up in the morning, woke up and saw this entire beautiful model of this universe is made. This friend said, "Come on, why are you joking? If you don't want to tell me who made it, at least don't tell me that this came up just by chance. How can a model, so perfect model of an universe, come by chance?" Isaac Newton told him, "That's the point. That if this model of this universe cannot come by chance, how do you think that this entire universe has come by chance? How do you think that the sun, moon, everything has come by chance? Everything is working so perfectly and you think it has come by chance." So when we look around, we can actually appreciate that Krishna's mercy is there everywhere. Krishna's love is there even in this material world. So that's what Krishna is saying here, that if you look around in this world, you will find my mercy there. So then in the next verse, in text 13, Krishna says, Gama vishcha bhutani dharayami ahamojasa pushnami chodashi sarva samo bhutva rasatmaka. So Krishna says, I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So Krishna is saying that I personally enter into every planet. Gamavishya cha bhutani dharayami ahamojasa. So otherwise, if Krishna didn't enter into every planet, how will the planet float? Where are the planets floating? The planets are floating in the sky. How can something float in the sky? Think about it. Can a mobile float in the air? A mobile can't float in the air. How can such a huge planet float in the sky? So that is the mercy of Krishna. When Krishna enters into the planets start to move around in an orbit. So this is the Lord's mercy. And again the Lord says, it is by mercy that the vegetables get the juice. The nectar that is there in the vegetables is because of me. So we may think that we are very intelligent, but God's intelligence is much more than our intelligence. One time there was a guy, who was lying down below a tree and he was looking around and he saw that there was a creeper in which pumpkins were growing. Huge pumpkins, big pumpkins were growing. So this fellow was thinking, huge pumpkin which can feed 10 people is growing in a very tiny creeper. He was thinking, how can God be intelligent? The big pumpkin should grow on big trees, on top of the trees. Why is God put this huge pumpkin on a creeper down below? So as he was thinking like this, he dozed off below a berry tree and went to sleep. And when he got up, there was wind that came, and all the berries started to fall on his head. That time he realized that good pumpkins are not there on this tree. If pumpkins were on this tree, the pumpkins will fall on my head. So that time he understood that God's intelligence is great. We may think that we are very intelligent, but beyond our intelligence is God's intelligence. So Krishna is personally there helping us at every step in our life. So these are examples where God is great, but still he is very far away from us. So in the next words, Krishna says, you need not go very far. Even in your own body, I am there to help you. It is only by my mercy that even your body functions. Text 14. Aham vaivashvanaro bhutva praninam deham ashrita pranapana samayukta pachyami annam chaturvidam. So this is very beautiful verse. Krishna says, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. And I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuff. So, what to speak about Krishna's mercy being in the form of the sun, the moon, and all the planets. Not only that, even in our own body, Krishna's mercy is there. So Krishna is saying, the fire of digestion that is there. So Krishna is saying, I am that fire. Aham vaivashvanaro bhutva praninam deham ashrita. So all the living entities who have taken this material body, they need digestion. And the digestive fire, Krishna says, it's me. So that means we eat food. Do we have any idea how digestion takes place? When we eat the food, do we tell the stomach, now you produce the digestion fires, the right kind of bile and the right kind of acids? Do we tell our stomach? No, it happens on its own. Do we know how our heart functions? Do we tell, now it's time for the food to go to the liver or whatever? Do we give all these instructions to the body? No, all these things happen. Who is making it happen? Do we have any control? We don't have any control. It's all happening by the mercy of God. We may be very proud that I'm controlling so many things in this world. We don't even have control of our own digestion system. We don't have any control of what's happening within this body. We don't have any control of what is happening outside this body. It is all the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is very kindly helping us in every aspect of our life. The sun, the moon, our own digestion, it is the mercy of Krishna. So why is Krishna speaking all these verses? To tell all of us that, just like in text 11, Krishna says, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha. When you have the eyes, what does eyes mean? Just look around in this world, you will see the help of Krishna everywhere, the hand of Krishna everywhere. And when you look around, when you appreciate all these small things, so miracles of God don't necessarily come in big ways. They come in very small ways. Is the sun not a miracle of God? Is the moon not a miracle of God? Is the air that we breathe not a miracle of God? Is the fire of digestion in our system not a miracle of God? The heart is beating, there's blood all over our system. The nails grow, everything is happening so perfectly. Are these not miracles of God? So if we have the eyes, we'll be able to see God everywhere. And when we are able to see God in every aspect of our life helping us, our love towards Him grows and we will naturally want to do bhakti towards Him. One time there was a king who had 4 wives. The first wife of the king was most attached to. He would do anything for this wife. He really loved this wife so much. The king's second wife, the king was not, the king loved the second wife also. and he would show the second wife to the neighboring kingdoms. He was very proud of his second wife. And the king's third wife, the king also loved her, but not as much as he loved the first wife. And anytime the king would have any problems in life, he would come and confide with his third wife. But the fourth wife of the king completely neglected this fourth wife. Completely. So finally, when the king was almost about to die, the king asked the first wife, "Will you come with me? Now I'm going to die. I'm going in a different world. Will you come with me?" The first wife said, "Nothing doing. I will not come with you. In fact, I'm waiting for you to die. I'm not at all interested in you." For the king, it was so painful. Can you imagine someone whom you have given your entire heart to, and that person ditches you, leaves you at the most important time? It's very painful. So the king felt great pain, and he turned to the second wife and asked her, "Will you come with me? I've done so much for you." The second wife said, "No, I will not come with you. In fact, after you die, I will go and get married to someone else." The king was pained completely. He couldn't bear this. He turned to his third wife and asked her, "I have confided in you in all our difficult times. Will you come with me?" The third wife said, "I will come with you only till your funeral pyre, not more than that." So the king was completely dejected. Three people in his life whom he gave his most love and energy to, they are not ready to come with him. That is the time the king heard a faint voice, and that was the voice of the fourth wife. And she told the king, "I will come with you." And the king was thinking, "I have completely neglected this wife, but still she is ready to come with me." So the story tells us that this is our own story in life. So like this king had four wives, we also have four wives. What are these four wives? The first wife is our own body. We are most attached to this body, but however much we are attached to this body is not going to come with us beyond this life. We have to leave this body and go. The second wife of the king, it is our wealth that we are very attached to, our possessions. But all this wealth and possessions that we show off to this world is not going to come with us. In fact, after we die, this wealth will go to someone else. The third wife whom a king was attached to represents our friends, relatives. They may be with us, but then till where they will come? They will only come to the funeral pyre. When someone dies, the relatives come to the funeral pyre or to the doorstep, not beyond. But there is one person who is constantly there with us. In everywhere we go, in everybody, one person is constantly there. Who's that? That is the super soul who is represented by the fourth wife. And just like the king neglected his fourth wife, but it is the fourth wife who was ready to go with the king. Similarly, we have completely neglected the Supreme Lord, but he is the one who comes with us life after life and helps us. So how much more we should be showing our love towards the Supreme Lord. So finally, Krishna comes to text 15. This is a very beautiful verse, a very important verse in the Gita. Sarvasya chaham yadi sannivishto mattar smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedeshta sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. So Krishna is saying he not only maintains our body, but Krishna also maintains our mind. So Krishna is situated in our heart as the Paramatma, and from Krishna comes memory, remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Everything comes from Krishna. So Krishna as the Paramatma is the one who is controlling our mind. Can you imagine, like when we go to sleep in the night, Krishna puts off that switch where we forget everything. Only when we forget everything, we can go to sleep. So we forget everything in the night because the Paramatma puts off that switch of forgetfulness. He puts off all our memory and we go to sleep. And when we get up in the morning, the Paramatma puts on the switch of knowledge so that again we remember everything, who we are, and we start to function again. So it is the mercy of God because of which our mind is functioning. Many times, students who go to answer exams, they will have this experience. Many times, there is something that you have studied properly. When you sit to write it, completely you forget it. And something that you have studied long back, when you sit to write the exam, everything comes very clearly. How does that happen? That is the mercy of the Paramatma. So the Lord is there in our heart, giving us remembrance, giving us knowledge, and giving us forgetfulness whenever needed. If you go through a very painful experience, it is Krishna in the form of the Paramatma who makes us forget it. If we don't forget that painful experience, we will not be able to continue on in life. So this is the mercy of the God on all of us. And finally, the Supreme Lord not only maintains our body, our mind, but He also maintains our soul, our Atma. How is that? By giving the Vedic literatures. Vedeshta sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. So Krishna gives us the Vedic scriptures. Why? To maintain our soul. So this is Krishna's love for all of us. Krishna is not only maintaining our body, He's maintaining our minds also, and He's maintaining our soul also. So much God is going out of the way just to help all of us. Just like a father loves or a mother loves the child so much, similarly the Supreme Lord loves us so much that He's going literally out of the way to give us so many things. So in this verse it says, Vedeshta sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. So, so Krishna says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. I am the compiler of the Vedas and I am the knower of the Vedas. So who has written the Vedas? Krishna has written the Vedas. And what is the purpose of the Vedas? The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So anyone who understands Krishna and does bhakti to Krishna has understood the purpose of all the Vedas. So that is the essence of all the Vedas. What is the essence? To know Krishna and to do bhakti to Krishna. I will end with one small story. So one time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Lord, who came in Kali Yuga, the same Krishna comes in Kali Yuga as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He one time in his pilgrimage, he comes to Sri Rangam. Sri Rangam is a very holy place in South India. And when he comes to this place, he sees a Brahman who is illiterate, who is completely has no knowledge of Sanskrit and is trying to read the Bhagavad Gita. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is observing this, that this illiterate person is trying to read the Gita. And around this Brahmana are very intelligent Brahmanas who are sitting, very intelligent people, and they are all laughing at this Brahmana. Why they are laughing? Because this Brahmana doesn't know to read and write. So they are all making fun of him, mocking at him. So that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to this Brahman and asks him, what are you doing? He says, I am studying the Gita. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you are trying to study the Gita, but you don't know Sanskrit, you don't know to read. What are you reading in the Gita? And still you are crying, there's tears in your eyes. If you don't understand anything of the Gita, why are you crying? So that time this Brahmana says that, my Guru told me to read Gita every day. Even though I don't know to read and write, still I'm trying. And why I'm crying? Because as soon as I remember that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, has become the chariot driver of Arjuna. The Supreme Lord has taken such a menial position because of his love for his devotees. Tears naturally come from my eyes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you have understood the Gita. You have understood the Vedic literatures even without reading them. Why? Because you have understood Krishna. You have started to develop love for Krishna. So that's why the essence of the Vedic scriptures is to know Krishna and love Krishna. And anyone who does that has actually understood the import of the Vedic scriptures. So in today's section, we saw how Krishna is the maintainer of our body, Krishna is the maintainer of our mind and of our soul. Why do we need to understand this? So that we can get the inspiration that Krishna is such a loving person and will be inspired to do bhakti towards him and make this journey from the material world to the spiritual world. So we will stop here. The final last 5 verses are left from 16 to 20. We will see this the next week, the concluding session the next week.